All right, I'd like to call to order the Governance and Operations Committee meeting of August the 15th. Welcome, everyone. It's been a while since we've met and hope everyone is enjoying summer and time with family and friends over the summer. So our first item on the agenda this afternoon is Samantha Murphy from the Drillland District Public Library, who's going to present to council her second quarter report. So without further ado, Samantha, the floor is yours, and thank you for coming to this council meeting and providing a report for us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I always like to start off our time together by thanking Mayor Payson and Council for the ongoing support that the Drillland District Public Library receives. I also like to address the importance of our relationship with city staff, as well as our partner here at the Riverfront Center, the Trail Museum and Archives. So as Councillor Santori said, I'm just here to review my second quarter report. Quite often at the library here, we like to refer to them as our celebration reports because it's a great opportunity for me to reflect on everything that's going on at the library and then share it with you. So beginning of this year, the library underwent a review and a bit of a revitalization of our strategic plan. Our plan was created the day before the Riverfront Center closed, and we just wanted to make sure that the plan still had the relevance to keep us going for the next 2 years. I'm just going to quickly share my screen here. So staff as well as patrons were included to participate. We took our 4 goals that, that we had come up originally with our plan, and in conversations we had 5 topics that kept coming up. So those topics were diversity, collaboration, inclusivity, the environment, as well as accessibility. So we took those 5 topics and our goals and sort of created a plan on how we were going to combine the 2. So out of those 4 main goals, our number of main themes that kept coming up were continuing to work collaboratively with the museum, creating barrier-free projects and programs for our multifaceted patrons, encouraging patrons to use our online services as well as our digital collections because we do have space constraints, ensure that our community is representing, our library is representing our Indigenous community in a respectful way by leading by example, and also address the growing concerns our patrons are having regarding the environment and emergency preparedness. So from that, I have then moved and created my 2023 operations plan. So I'll be combining my operations plan with my strategic plan to create my budget proposal that I'll be presenting for 2023 later on in this year. In terms of statistics, I was a little concerned that when restrictions were starting to be lifted, that we might see a decrease in in-person visits as well as circulation, but the opposite has actually happened. Circulation has never been stronger at the library. We've never in the past hit that 5,000 mark per month for physical circulation, and we've actually exceeded that a number of times so far this year. And for new memberships, we've had generally about 30 per month. So that's new people registering for library cards. For programming, we're in the final week of our summer reading club, and on average, we've had about 100 children participate per week. And I'm also happy to say that the library has a full complement of staff right now as well.
Nice.
Yeah. I've talked about the book bike many times, so I just wanted to include just a short piece on it because this project has been going on since 2019. It was drastically delayed due to COVID. The company that made our book bike for us closed twice due to COVID. And then of course there was supply chain issues after that. So the book bike we've named her Haley, and Haley is going to greatly increase our outreach efforts in the community. People will not only be able to check out books, they'll be able to get library cards as well as register for programs as well. So keep your eye out for Haley. So I also wanted just to talk briefly about the one-time funding that was in my report, in recognition of the role libraries have played in supporting our community through the pandemic. There was $8 million that was allocated to BC libraries and library federations. So of that one-time funding, the library received approximately $35,000 from the province for COVID relief and emergency planning. So in recognition of the support the library has received from the city throughout the pandemic, I met with Tricia Davison to discuss contributing to a capital project that the entire Riverfront Center would benefit from, and also discuss emergency planning because the library would like to be an official part of the Riverfront Center emergency plan. So I will be taking my recommendations from that discussion with Tricia and taking them to the board when they reconvene in September. And I'll be reporting on that in my third quarter report to council.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything else. The audit was also included in my report, and all the information in the audit reflects what we had talked about back in, I think it was October or November of last year.
Great. Thank you, Samantha. Are there any members of council that have any questions of Samantha? Carol? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just a quick question. It's nice to see when you give us the reports that we see new members, but at the end of the year, when you sort of balance the books, are we farther ahead in membership? Because I know, we've lost some people who passed away or families have moved away. Overall, are we on the increase each year?
It fluctuates.
Okay.
I think we were down in 2021, and we're up. The year prior to that, we were actually down. We're still over about 4,000 members, and I'm not 100% sure, Councillor Dobie, on how many of those are active members. I know it's close to 3,000 though.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor Payson?
I just want to say thank you, Samantha. It's just so nice to see consistently great reports from the library. A lot has changed since you've taken over as director, and I love the format. It's easy to read. I love your PowerPoints that you come to us with really just very salient, important information. So just great work, and thanks to all the library board as well.
Thank you very much. It's our pleasure.
Are there any other questions? If not, Samantha, I got one, and I'm assuming the person visits the 13,365 is inclusive of museum visitors as well. You
It
don't
is,
second, yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah. I usually report in the body of my report. I get the numbers from Eleanor and I subtract those.
Okay,
So you have an idea of exactly how many approximately our library visits.
awesome. Thank you. Any other members of council? If not, thanks very much, Samantha. And to reiterate, Mayor Payson, thank you for a detailed and informative report. And we wish you and your staff and your board continued success as we move into the fall and winter months. So thanks again, Samantha.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
You too. Have a good day. All right, the next item on the agenda is from Public Works. The first item is the Capital Improvement Program. And we have David Moorhead with us coming forward with a base price of $280,686. We have two bids. Staff is recommending the lowest bidder, which is Selkirk Paving. David, did you have anything to add to your report, or are there any questions of council, and how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Santori. This program's been before council. This is the fourth year, so I don't have anything to add other than just with asphalt pricing, we did remove the microsurfacing treatment that we have done over the last 2 years, and resulting in the bid being under budget. But there is 4,200 square meters of asphalt being replaced in those sections of trail. But if council has any questions, I'm here to answer.
I'll move approval.
Okay, it's been
I'll
moved.
speak to it.
Do we have a seconder?
Mhm.
I'll second.
Seconded by Lisa. Go ahead, Robert.
So David, most of that's in West Trail. All of it's in West Trail then, eh?
That's correct. This year it is all in West Trail.
Yeah, that's great because I've noticed on Facebook consistently they've been arguing about potholes and this and that and that. And I think that's great because we haven't we haven't addressed some of those issues on West Trail. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions of David? Not hearing any, we have a motion on the floor and seconded. So all those in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? The motion is carried. The next item is the purchase of a 5-ton dump plow and dump truck in the amount of $247,045. Do you want to speak to that, David, as well? Oh, David's not. Brian, sorry, not David.
No problem, Chair Santori. I think the report mostly speaks for itself. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. The only one thing that I would say is that I typically would not make a recommendation for a dollar figure difference of this amount. This is very tightly tied to supply chain issues and availability of these sorts of trucks. And I can honestly say that we've had a long time, multiple decades of relationship with Freightliner of Cranbrook. And the city staff has spent a considerable amount of time trying to streamline our fleet. And I think that the recommendation is reflective of that. And there is a truck available, certainly, and that was a big portion of my recommendation on this report. So if I can, happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Okay, so staff's recommendation is for Cranbrook Freightliner at the bid price of $247.45. Are there any questions of council?
I've got my hand up, Sandy.
Oh, go ahead, Robert.
So Brian, thank you. Even though it's more, what you're saying is that this is the better truck in terms of what we need in the city of Trail. That's what your report says then, eh?
That's correct, Councillor Kashoni. The truck itself is identical. Both the bodybuilder of Industrial Machine is providing exactly the same truck. Where it really gets not apples to apples is the secondary equipment. And to be very honest, I'm quite concerned when I see a bid differential price. I expect, sometimes between tight pricing, typically speaking, on these items, because there's a fairly small margin for municipal units. And this doesn't reflect that. So a little bit of research, and I'm a bit concerned that the equipment that they're suggesting that they would provide, or the build that they would provide, would be somewhat a lower standard, if you will. I'm cautious not to put that necessarily in print, but that's kind of how I feel. That's a pretty big differential there that I'm concerned, and background research shows that the equipment's not apples to apples.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Brian.
My only point is, Brian, as long as you feel comfortable in defending that, if the other bidder is to take offense to the fact that, or take action that they weren't considered, and as long as you're comfortable with the logic that you used, if we are challenged, then I have no problem supporting the motion. But I've just been down that road before. Mind you, it was years ago, but hasn't happened since. So.
I think if I can, Chair Santori, I know that the date is really important, and that will be one of the main criteria that we can get this unit here at the beginning of winter here. I know it's not quite December, but the other one's not until August, which won't do us a lot of good for the winter, and that'll be part of the factor. I'm quite sure in the RFP is date.
Awesome.
Deliverability.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from any other? Go ahead, Colleen. Colleen?
Oh, no, thank you, Councillor Santori. I was just going to move the recommendation.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, Robert.
Seconded by Robert. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposition? Not hearing any. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you, Brian, and order the truck.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Manager Maloney.
Okay, moving right along, we go into grants and aid. And if I could have a motion first to accept the report as circulated, and then we have a couple of requests to follow. Or are there any questions regarding the grants that have been issued Go ahead, Mayor Paisley.
No, I'll just move acceptance or receipt of the grants to organizations dated August 10th, 2022.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Colleen. Any questions on the grants issued so far? Go ahead, Colleen.
I do have a question on the career development services, the concession stand. So, I mean, clearly they're not going to be using that money this year because the concession stand isn't open. So does that carry over for next year, or do we just not, do we just take it off the grant list?
I guess from me here, I think it was just kind of showing you what has been used in the past sort of thing. And again, we will revisit that with 2023's group and with a new council as well, likely, and how they want to frame how they do their grants. But I think it's more informational purposes, Councillor Jones, on what's happening there.
Thank you.
And just for further information, traditionally, they do come to council each and every year prior, so it always comes to council before the money is dispersed. And I saw someone else. Carol, go ahead.
Yeah. Am I incorrect in my understanding that they never came to council last year because of COVID? That they weren't going to be operating the concession?
I personally
There was
don't.
no money, no 7,000 granted to CDS for the concession last year.
Now I
Maybe
think
my
it-
memory's failing me, but I thought that's what occurred.
I think it's 20,000 for the
Yeah.
concession.
20
Or
grand.
whatever amount it was for the concession.
Yeah, and as
Yeah, it says not funded in 2020 and 2021.
Right, because of
And-
COVID.
yes, but I think also just even again with COVID and operational with staff of their own, they did not come forward as Chair Santori spoke to
Okay.
request the funding for this year.
Point of
Right.
information, though, a question rather, sorry, but didn't we put out a bid and nobody accepted it? I thought we did that too, Colin.
Yeah.
We did.
That's what happens when you have a CEO. It starts after some of these things. Not always up to date on information, Councillor
So we put a
Kashoni.
bid out, nobody took it.
There was an RFP issued earlier this year and there was no proponents. I do know that the Parks and Recreation Director does get telephone calls every now and again from people. And whether anything will come from those arrangements for future years down there, perhaps, hopefully something will.
Thank you.
But correct me if I'm wrong, and Councillor Adobe, but I think the point that, or what we're hearing is, although the 20,000 is in there, we're not going to take for granted that the 20,000 is automatically there for next year
That's
Yeah.
right.
without coming back to council, right, Carol?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so moving right along, we have all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. The first request is Operation OWATS, request for a prize donation. And Lisa, you want to
Yep.
recuse yourself?
Councillor Santori, I have to recuse myself because the funds for this grant are flowing through the KBRH Health Foundation. So I'm going to mute myself and I'm also going to stop my video and I'm going to go into the main concourse area. So once you're done, I'll bring my cell phone or CAO McClure can come out and get me.
Okay, got it.
Councillor Santori, I'm going to recuse myself as a member of the KBRH board.
Okay, what's the protocol here then? We don't have a quorum.
Yeah, you do. There's 4 of you.
Oh, yeah, I forgot myself.
You're in the show. There we go.
I was
on
looking at-
holidays.
I was looking at Robert, Carol, and Colleen, and I forgot to include myself.
I'll move
Okay.
approval, $250.
I'm sorry, Robert, I missed
I'll
that.
move approval on the $250 things.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I will.
Colleen, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. If you want to get Mayor Paisley back.
So Sandy, when it comes to this next one here,
Yeah.
I just wondered, this is the information that was at the last meeting, maybe Sandy knows best, so there was the last meeting, and then this came again. This is the second time, right?
That's correct. So at the last meeting, the consideration of the grant application was deferred.
Mhm.
Pending receipt of some information. I think what was requested that council wanted to know more about the relationship that the city has with the Trail Tadnak Team Tennis Society, as well as more information about what their costing is. The amounts in the original application were quite ballparked. And then it's any additional information on other grant streams that they may be accessing. So the second report that I prepared on August 10th was a means of trying to get more information to you. There's not a whole lot more, but that's what I was able to get.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Go ahead, Mayor Payson.
So have we started the formal discussion on this?
I'm going to open it right this second. So we have a request before us for $20,000 from the Trail Tadnak Team Tennis Society for improvements as outlined in their request. And what is council's position on this? Or did you want to start anything with this, Colin, at all, or just throw it right into council?
Well, it's somewhat difficult. Again, I'm new on how council deals with their grants. One that I noted is that they're also doing other grant requests. It looks like the whole amount is sort of there as an amount. And when I think about that dollar amount and again, even how many members they have and certain things, it seemed a bit high. Now, again, that's my opinion. And I'm not saying I speak for council, but I could see there might be something that council is willing to be a partner in helping them, but I'm not sure at the grant request size, whether or not it's in line with what we're seeing others request from the previous reports on how we're handing out grants and that sort of thing. Those are all just things I think that council would need to take into consideration. But again, this is always up to council to decide.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Payson.
Okay, thanks for asking me to speak because I'm the one who moved to defer this one. So when looking at the submission, I still do have concerns, and primarily because the amount is so high. And also because there's no confirmed funding from other organizations at this time. When I looked at the two parts, being the fence and the resurfacing, and the time of year, and the quote for the fence that came in, for a quote for a project that big, I would like to see competitive bids come in on that to see if $25,000 for the fence is actually the cost for that, or if there is some price savings to be saved with other vendors. And at this point, I look at it, and I look at it in two spots. I look at the resurfacing and I look at the fencing. And coming into the fall, I would be comfortable providing funding for resurfacing for this group, but I would ask that they continue to get competitive quotes for the fencing, go to other organizations like they're doing to try to get some funding offset, and then also bring it forward to the Columbia Basin Trust Community Initiatives Program for consideration with council in spring of next year.
Any other thoughts from any other council members?
I got my hand up, Sandy.
Go ahead, Robert.
How much exactly would that resurfacing? I can't remember right now. How much is it?
$3,558.75 is
Yeah.
what the quote is.
Well, I could support that in actual fact. The only problem I have is that is the membership open up there? I guess would be the question. I'm not quite sure. Let's suppose somebody else wanted to join in. Can anybody join that particular club? I'm not sure, because they only have 11 trail members.
Yeah,
So
I believe it can, but I'm not 100% sure.
Does anybody know?
No.
Is it Colin? Can you maybe? That's something I'd like to know. I would support it on the premise that that other people could join. That would be mine. Maybe Paul can answer.
I'm under the impression that it is open to all
Yeah.
I was speaking with the head of the Residents Association on membership, and it's open to anybody. And I think that's how that reads out in the report there with like, there's a few members from Montrose, a few from Roslyn, a few from Trail.
Right.
Yeah, and I also,
I could support that then if that's open. Thank you.
yeah, and I think I noted it that maybe the club itself is maybe a group that gets together and plays. Otherwise, it's open to the public. So that's, again, maybe that gives you some confidence, Councillor Kashoni, that if you wanted to go up and have it, it just seemed to be there's a bit of a group, maybe some people that set up some games that are part of that. But that smaller group seems to have a committed date that they play.
Thanks a lot.
Any other, Carol, go ahead.
Okay, I agree with what Mayor Payson has said in terms of, is there funding coming from any other areas or any other societies? As I also raised that at the last meeting. And in thinking back, we know that this tennis court is on Cominco property. And at the time of construction, the city of the village of Tadnak was still considered a village and did not come under City of Trail's umbrella. So I'm almost positive it's a safe statement for me to make that Tech did construct that tennis court. I really don't think it was constructed by volunteers, because at that time, if you remember, Tech did all the gardening for all the residents in Tadnak, did the snow removal, did roof repairs, small jobs like that. So I'm almost positive that they would have constructed the tennis courts for them. So this is still on Tech property, and it is a private club, even though other people can join and also are open to play at any time. But I also want to remind council that a couple of years ago, I think we approved Tricia Davidson's request that we turn one of the set of tennis courts into pickleball, because pickleball is becoming the rising sport and tennis is becoming the declining sport. So I have a tough time donating to this private club, even though it's open to other people, when we know that we've advanced changes at our own tennis court because there's not as many people playing tennis. And because our tennis courts have washrooms right beside them, and they're brand new, they've all been resurfaced, all the new fencing and all the new tennis court or the nets have all been put in. I think most tennis players probably would prefer to come and play to our courts, but I can't guarantee that. So these are just some of the things that I've been thinking of and what some of my concerns are. So I have a bit of a problem supporting that kind of money to go into the Tadnak tennis courts.
Thank you. Mayor Payson?
I just want to maybe provide a correction that I don't think it's fair to talk about this as a private club. It's a society, which is a registered society, which is akin to being a charity. And it's just the governance structure. It's not a private club, which has, I think, a very different closed membership kind of affiliation. So I'm just not sure that it's a private club.
And I made that clear that it was open to the public, and I apologize for my mistake in calling it a club rather than a society. You are quite right.
Okay, Colleen, go ahead.
Thank
Go ahead.
you. Thank you, Councillor Santori. I just want to make the motion, and I'm going to make the motion that we contribute $5,000 to the Tennis Society of Tadnak. And if someone will second that, I'll just explain why I'm going with that amount.
Go ahead, Paul. Or sorry, seconded by Paul. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Colleen.
Okay, thank you. I'm setting it at that amount because the resurfacing costs right now are at $3,500, $58.75. $3,558.75. And, by the time we get this going through the way things are going up, I just want to make sure that they've got enough money to cover the whole process. So that's why I'm setting it at $5,000. And also they still have some funding applications out there that they haven't received the answers back. So that's why I'm moving the 5,000.
Thank you, Colleen. Go ahead, Mayor Payson.
Councillor Jones, if that's the case, would you be comfortable amending the motion to indicate that the City of Trail would be willing to cover cost of resurfacing up to $5,000. So if
Sure.
there's any cost overrun above the $3,500 as indicated in the quote, they'll assure that there's full coverage of it up to the maximum of $5,000.
Yes, I would be willing to do that.
Okay, and then I'll second that as advanced.
Any other discussion from anyone? I have some comments, but well, just on your note, Carol, we donate to several clubs, be it the Colombo Lodge or whatever, that actually are private clubs, and we've donated to them in the past. So, but not to belinger on the argument, we have a motion. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is one. Carol is opposed. So the motion was to put funds towards the resurfacing to a maximum of $5,000. And the motion is carried. On that note, there are no further items on the GOC agenda for today. We'll reconvene at 6 o'clock for regular council. Thank you very much and enjoy your
Yes,
afternoon.